Okay, so now we're going to talk about the something called the second derivative test. But first, I think you probably ought to make note that I am wearing my Kansas City Chiefs World Champions shirt. The Kansas City Chiefs are the world champions. They did win the Super Bowl. So now back to the calculus. The second derivative test is not the same, not the same, not the same as what I'm calling the second derivative analysis. The second derivative analysis is used to find the intervals of concavity. The second derivative analysis is used to find the intervals of concavity in the same way that the first derivative analysis is used to find the intervals of increase and decrease. The second derivative test is something entirely different. So I'm being very careful to use the terminology first derivative analysis. The first derivative analysis is used to determine the intervals of increase and decrease, and from that you can also find the relative extrema and any saddle points. The second derivative analysis is used to find the intervals of concavity, where the curve is concave up and concave down, and from that you can find inflection points. The second derivative test is used to find relative extrema. And really it's used to categorize relative extrema. So we're going to find the relative max, relative min. It has a very narrow application. It may be used only with type 1 critical values from the first derivative. So the second derivative test is used to find relative extrema, to categorize relative extrema as maximum or minimum. And it may be used only used with type 1 critical values from f prime. So if C is a type 1 critical value, from the first derivative, what that means is the first derivative at C is 0. So the second derivative test is only used if you have C. If C is a type 1 critical value from f prime, that is to say if f prime of C is equal to 0, then we may apply the second derivative test. All right? So you may apply the second derivative test only. You may only apply the second derivative test if you have type 1 critical values that you found from the first derivative. Type 2 critical values don't have anything to do with the second derivative test.